All right, this is lesson 3 in our unit price unit. And so a lot of this lesson is review about percentages. So we're going to start off with some review. And I think that this one is really not too complicated. And so I'm going to add in just a little bit of mental math, like kind of tips as we go. For just kind of estimating these kind of things, because often you don't need to know exact numbers. Just being able to estimate this stuff and being able to estimate it really, really quickly when you're like kind of doing something on the fly is what's really helpful. If you can't estimate it really quickly, then that's when you're going to have to take out your phone, take out a calculator, and try and figure it out. And often you're not going to want to take the time to do that, and so you don't. So if you can be able to estimate these things very quickly, that's when it actually starts to impact your life more so than taking out your phone even. So this is just percentages review. Okay, so it says like calculate 45% of 20. Okay, so from an estimation standpoint, 45% is just a little less than 50%. So 50% of 20, that's half of 20, is going to be 10, right? So if I know 50% is 10, then 45% is going to be just a little bit less than 10. So, but anyways, how do you do this on a calculator? Okay, on your calculator, you need to use 45%, but not in this form. Okay, remember that percent means like per 100. Okay, that little sign, the percent sign there. Okay, percent means per 100. Cent means 100. So there's a good reminder here in that this symbol, right? We have a slash here for division, and we have 2 zeros for 100. So what we want to do is we want to write this 45% as a fraction, where we say, instead of writing it like that, we're going to say 45 per 100. 45 per 100, which is the same as 45 divided by 100. Okay, so if in your calculator you say 45 divided by 100, you would get 0.45. Okay, now we don't have that big percentage. It's just the decimal there. So this is what we need, is we need it as a decimal in order to work with it. So now if we want to say 45% of 20, we'll take this as a decimal and multiply by 20. So we're going to say 0.45, that's our 45% in decimal form, and multiply it by 20. And that will give us 45% of 20. Okay, so 0.45 times 20, and it gives us 9. Okay, and that fit our estimate of just a little bit less than 10. Okay, if we wanted to go really crazy, okay, we could have estimated, or we could have done this completely mental math by thinking, well, what's 10% of 20? Okay, 10% of 20 would be 2. Meaning like 10 2s together would make 20. It's also easy, you can kind of just move the decimal point over 1 when we're doing 10%. So if 10% is 2, then what would 5% be? Okay, it's going to be half of that. What's half of, right? If 10% is 2, then what's 5%? 5% is going to be 1, because 2 5s together are going to make 2. So we knew that 50%, we figured that out mentally, that was 10. And we want to know what's 5% less than 50%. And so 50% was 10, 5% less. Well, 5% is just 1. So it's going to be 1 less than 10, and that's 9. Done. Right, so let's try that with this one. Right, so what's 15% of 300? Well, let's say, what's 10% of 300? 10% is just always when you're going to basically be taking that 0 away. You're taking that bottom number away. You're moving your decimal point 1 over. Okay, to be 30. Okay, 30 is 10% of 300. 10 of those gives you 300. So 10% was 30. So what's 5% of 300? Well, it's got to be half that. Right? If 10% is 30, then 5% has to be 15. So then what's 15%? Well, it's 10% and 5% together. 15% is 30 and 15 together makes 45. So if you did that on your calculator, right, first you'd say 15 divided by 100, okay, right? Or you could have written as a fraction too, 15 divided by 100. Either way, you're already putting it in your calculator, and that is going to give you 0.15. And then you're multiplying 0.15 by 300, and that will give you, in your calculator, 0.15 times 300 is 45. Okay. So often you can figure it out exactly, fairly simply as well. But just getting a good estimate, right? We could like knowing that it's going to be around 50, okay, is pretty helpful. Okay, so now let's move on to the next type, where we say what percent of 5, or sorry, what percent is 5 of 20, right? So like 20 is our whole. And we want to say like, if we just took 5 of those, what percent would that be, right? So we're going to think of this in terms of a fraction, where in a normal fraction, we have a whole on the bottom and we have part of it on the top. Okay, so like if I have an eighth of a pizza, right? It's like taking a pizza and splitting into 8 pieces and I get one of them. Okay, this is the whole, this is the part. Or we could think of it of like, if there are 10 people in the class, that's the whole amount, and 2 of them are wearing blue shirts, right? There's the whole, the total number, and the part is going on the top. Okay, so now that we've kind of figured, like kind of remembered about fractions, okay, then what percent is 5 of 20? Well, first we're going to say 5 divided by 20, just like we were doing before, and that's going to give us a decimal. Okay, so this is our part and our whole. Parts on the top, wholes on the bottom. And that in your calculator is going to be 0.25. Now, we want to get this as a percent. Okay, so when we had a percent with that symbol before, okay, we were dividing by 100. To get it from decimal back to that normal percent form, we just times by 100. So 0.25 times by 100 is equal to 25. And now we write our little percent sign. Okay, so 25%. And that's it. So when we're finding percent like this, we're writing it as a fraction and dividing. That will give us a decimal number. But if we want to know it as a percent, we need to turn it from the percent, or from the decimal to the percent by timesing by 100. So let's do one more example of those, and then we'll move on to the new stuff. So what percent is 65 of 325? Okay, here's my whole, here's my part. So 65 divided by 325. Okay, so my calculator, I'm saying 65 divided by 325. That gives me 0.2. Okay, to find it as a percent, I times by 100. 0.2 times by 100 is equal to 20. And now I write that percent symbol, 20%. Now, be careful that sometimes it says 625 of 50. You're going to be tempted to put the 50 on the top and the 625 on the bottom, but it's saying what percent is 625 of 50? This one is actually going to be more than 100%. Okay, it's actually going to be more like 1,000 some percent. So just be careful that it's not always the bigger number on the bottom. It just normally is. Just be careful to the way it's worded in the question. Okay, so that brings us to the next page where we're talking about markup. So this is when like a store or like somebody who's selling something, they buy something for a called a wholesale price. Okay, so let's say I'm buying a bike that I want to sell. Okay, and I buy that bike from a company and I buy it for $100. Okay, now because I want to make money with my company, I'm not going to sell it for $100. I'm going to sell it for more than that so that I get some money. So if I sell that for $150, I've paid the $50 is my markup. Okay, I bought it for $100, but I'm selling it for $150. That $50 is like my profit, basically. Essentially, it's just like how much different the price is. It's not quite my profit because there are other costs, but it's similar to profit. Okay, $50 markup. So this example here uses percent talking about markups. So it says Melanie owns a clothing store. Her standard markup is 85%. So normally she charges an extra 85% on top of what she buys it for. So if she bought a coat from a wholesaler at $125, what would the markup be? So we want to say, well, what's 85% of this? $125 is how much she paid. We're going to times it by 0.85. Okay, where did I get 0.85 from? This is a decimal. right? So that divided by 100 gives me the 0.85. And now a quick estimate of this is, right, like half of this would be about $60. Okay, 75%, well, like $50, sorry, 50% is going to be around $60. 25% means that's going to be around $30 because it's going to be half of 60. And so then 85 or like 75% would be these together, right? 50 and 25 together would make 75%, which is around $90. So then if I'm looking at 85%, then my estimate, I'm just going to ballpark here as like $100. Okay, I could get closer than that if I wanted to, right? But for now, I'm just going to say I'm guessing it should be around $100. So if I now put in my calculator, 125 times 0.85, I get $106.25. $106.25. That's reasonably close to what our estimate was. This answer kind of fits with what we were thinking. So this is her markup. Okay, it's not what she's charging. This is how much extra she's charging. So when it says now, how much would Melanie charge customers for the coat? She's going to charge them what she paid. She paid $125, and she's also going to charge an extra 85%, which we just said was $106.25. So then she's charging the customer $231.25 total. Okay. Now, these other questions are just, further examples of those. So the last type of problem that we're going to talk about in this lesson is then talk about sales tax. So this was again similar to what we were doing before when we were doing our income unit, but sales taxes are something that you add on to the retail price, right? So when you go to the store, we're all used to this. You buy something for $100, but then you actually get charged a couple extra dollars for taxes. So there is 3 kinds of taxes that you can get charged with. There's GST, the goods and services tax. That's getting charged on everything. There's provincial sales tax. So in certain provinces, there's an extra sales tax that you pay on things. And then HST is harmonized sales tax. That's just GST and PST combined into one. So there's some provinces where they don't have separate, they just do it all together in one called HST. So for this example problem, it says Quentin wants to buy a pair of steel-toe boots listed at $179.95. How much will the boots cost if 5% GST and 6% PST are charged? Okay, well, we could do 5% and 6% and add them together, but like one at a time. But let's just add the percentages right away at the beginning. So like total, there's going to be 11% tax. Okay, there's no need to do this calculation and that calculation separately. Let's just find out what's 11% extra on that. So 11% is a decimal, right? We say 11 divided by 100. Is equal to 0.11. And then we find out what is extra on there. So we'd say 179.95 times 11% as a decimal, 0.11. Okay, now again, I could estimate here. This is basically $180. And what would 10% of $180 be? It would be $18, right? If 100% is, like if it's total at 180, then 10% is going to be $18. Okay, now what's 1%? It's going to be $1.8. Okay, $1.80. So what's 11%? It's going to be $19.80. 18 plus 1.8 is 19.8. So our answer is going to be just slightly smaller than that because we have like missing 5 cents from here. So if you put into your calculator 179.95 times 0.11, we get 19.7945. So 19.79, right? We were off by a penny. Dollars. Okay, so this is how much taxes was charged on top of the normal price. So it says how much will the boots cost if there's this much taxes. So then we need to add this onto the normal price. So it started off as 179.95, and we added on $19.79 of sales tax to get a total then 179 of $199 and 74 cents. Okay, and that is our final answer, 199.74. So that should cover you for this lesson. So good luck on the assignment, and I'll see you in the next one.